Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. I hope everyone's okay. Please, feel free again to ask me any questions. If you want to in between, that's no problem at all. Um, okay, let me just see here. Why is this? Oh, okay. Well, okay. All right. Okay. So today is about wellness coping strategies. Fun. Talked a lot about stress and what causes it, and how to manage, your and balance your life. So today we'll talk about some things we can do, and what are the impacts of stress. Okay. So stress is a feeling of emotional or physical tension. It's your body's reaction to a challenge or a demand. So, it can come from any event or thought that makes you feel frustrated, angry, or nervous. In very short bursts, stress can be very positive, like if you're running a race or you're, trying to avoid danger or meet a deadline. These are positive bursts of stress. But long-term stress, as we know, is not desirable, and certainly not good for our health. Especially with COVID right now that we're dealing with, it's a long-term stressful situation. So it is it's really impacting a lot of people's mental health and physical health. So types of stress, again, we've got positive, which we reviewed last time: starting a new job, going on holiday, maybe you're having a grandchild or someone's getting married. Negative is the death of a person. And just to tell you, unfortunately, someone that I knew from high school, he committed suicide this week, and it's um, it's just to illustrate how really serious this is, and how it's impacting, how COVID and all of the restrictions and the loss of employment is really taking its toll on people. So we really need to be very mindful of how we're feeling and getting the help that we need when we need it. Um, so I don't know the whole story, but unfortunately, it's just a testament to the realities of what's happening right now, to people at this time. So negative. So again, negative personal, financial challenges, personal injury, unemployment, being abused or neglected. Of course, please reach out if any of these things are happening to you, and we can refer you to the proper resources. Um, so yeah, so that can really, and it also, depends on the length of the exposure as well. Obviously, the death of a significant person, that's a long-term exposure. COVID-19 is a long-term exposure, to a stressor. So stress management, stress is manageable. It truly is. I mean, if we identify our stressors early on, if we're being very mindful, we're being conscious of our lives, and that, our wellness wheel, we're being balanced, we're kind of reviewing things on a frequent basis, then we can catch our stressors while they're early. If we kind of let it, linger and fester, then this is when the impact on our other areas of our life start to happen: our relationships, interpersonal relationships, our health, physical health, mental health. This is when things start to go the opposite way. So, while it might seem that there's nothing you can do about it, stress at work or home, there's lots of steps that you can take to relieve that pressure, and regain control of it. And that's the point I want you to take, is that it is manageable, no matter what it is, the financial or relationship breakups or whatever it is absolutely manageable. So the importance of managing stress, the effects. So high levels of stress, as we know, will obviously impact your entire being, um, emotional equilibrium, your physical health, your ability to think clearly. If you can remember a time in your life where you were highly stressed, it really does take a toll on your ability to just think clearly about daily decisions that you have to make. So it really does impact us. So you have a lot more control than you think. There's that saying that says, you're stronger than you think. You can do this. And it really is true. You can control it if you identify it as early as you can. Um, again, there may be, things that you can't do about the stress, like your bills obviously won't stop coming. Like you've got bills. There will never be more hours in the day, and your work and family responsibilities will continue to be demanding. But there are ways to put into a plan to try and lessen those stressors. Just I was talking to a client the other day, and she was approved, for subsidy housing, and that is going to significantly reduce her stress once she's able to get in there. So that's something that she did, and work together with other community resources to get that in place, to lessen her stress, because obviously market rent was just too much for her. So it's things like that, finding connections to people that will help us to manage those stressors, right? The goals of effective stress management. So, it helps you to break the hold of stress that it has on your life so you can be happier, healthier, and more productive. The ultimate goal, again, is it's always about balance. And if you refer back to your wellness wheel, that is that's the stamp. We want to make sure that all of our areas of life are as balanced as possible. And if we see that it's not, again, what can we do? Who can we access to start changing that, so that it does become more balanced? Because we need to have time for work, we need to have time for relaxation, time for relationships and fun. Yesterday I went out, in the front of our house, and my son was, shoveling, and then I picked up a snowball and just hit him in the back, and that was just something that, you know kind of fun that I could do with him to just break up our routine. It's the kids are stressed out, parents are stressed out, but that was just something that we could do for fun, that takes us out of our daily routines right now. And resilience is huge. um, Actually, if you Townsend Smith Foundation, um, if you go to their website, I'm actually doing a presentation for them tomorrow on resiliency. And that's free workshop as well. And it's going to be tomorrow at 12 to 1. You can still register. So that's something, if you have time tomorrow, you might want to look. I can repeat that a bit later as well. But resilience, to hold up under pressure and meet challenges and be able to bounce back from stressful situations. That's true resiliency, our ability to bounce back from the things that bring us stress. Okay. But stress management is not a one size fits all. Like we can't, what works for me may not work for you and may not work for the other person. So it's very personal. We have to take a look at our personal lives and our resources that we have within ourselves and the resources in the community to meet those goals. And it's truly important to, experiment and find out what works best for you, because it's not the same approach for everyone. Okay. Stress management tips. So, again, we want to identify the sources of stress in your life as early as possible. And that's why it's great to keep looking back at the wellness wheel and do your, kind of shading. Maybe one month, something is really shaded a lot. And then something else the following month, it's not. And like, so what happened? Where was the drop off? So it's a constant reevaluation of your life, right? How do your thoughts and your feelings and behaviors contribute to your everyday life and stress levels? Are you a person who has a positive mindset, or maybe you kind of, um, to trail onto to more negative mindset? And these are, there's lots of tips and um, ways and resources to try and move over to more of a positive mindset, right? It is possible. We can change our thoughts. And when we change our thoughts, our feelings and behaviors start to change as well. So that's important to note. And maybe you have an underlying condition that makes it difficult as well. So you might need some more professional community support and help to tackle that, right? You might have anxiety, for example. Anxiety is can be a real barrier to balancing your life, if that's a constant in your head. So, you might need extra help to deal with that. Um, for true sources of stress, really closely at your habits, your attitude, and your excuses. And, there's some, really powerful statements of don't make any excuses, kind of change your attitude and your life will change. These are all great and they're inspirational and they kind of help us to be motivated, but it can be hard if there's underlying challenges. Um, our past kind of defines how we're going to um, behave in the present or the future. So there's a lot that goes into that. It's not as simple as reading some positive statements. There's a lot that goes into that. So keep that in mind. I love those motivational quotes and positive statements. I think that goes a long way. But again, it's not a one size fits all. It has to be personal for you. And um, it's partly your decision, but it's also underlying conditions that you might have that might be a barrier. Okay. And while it is easy to identify major stresses such as changing jobs, moving, or going through a divorce, but pinpointing those sources of chronic stress can be a little more complicated. So if it's been, your stress level has been that way for a really long time and there's never been any real thought into how did this originate, like where's the beginning source of your stress. So that can become more complicated if you can't identify that. So it's really about awareness, is really being aware of how you are every day and making time to sit down and say, okay, this is causing me stress. What plan am I going to put together to offset this and balance this out? And maybe I need again to access somebody to help me identify that. So, note to self, until you accept responsibility for the role you play in creating or maintaining it, your stress level will remain outside of your control. So, really, it begins with me, my mind, my body, and spirit. It all begins within. Just you wake up one morning and say, okay, I can't live like this anymore. This is so much stress. I need to. So right there and then you've taken responsibility and you've identified that you need help and that you can do it. And that gives you back your control. So it's really something that we need to accept our responsibility, know that it is within us, within our power to stabilize our lives and stabilize ourselves. Again, it might be you can do it on your own or you need a community of people to do it, but it's certainly something that we can get under control. So let's examine our attitudes and behaviors and excuses. So, do you explain away your stress is temporary? Like, I just have a million things going on right now, even though you can't remember the last time you took a breather. And a good tip is I have on my cell phone, I've um, set the alarm for 10 o'clock a.m. and 2 p.m. And when that alarm goes off, I have it written, just breathe. So that is my prompt because I'm super busy. That's my prompt to say, stop, Anna, for a minute and just breathe. And it truly does work. It really does. I mean, because when I wasn't doing that, absolutely, I was going go, 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 never have any moment to just be in the moment. So, and take a breather. So that's a tip for you. And it really works for me personally. So it might not work for you, but it might work for you. And that's where you need to, figure out, is that something that would help you to, not make excuses like I have a million things going on right now. I have no time to breathe, right? And I think I've told you guys about the 1 minute meditation every night. Um, Everyone has 1 minute, right? We really do. Everyone has 1 minute every night to go outside or go to your window and just breathe. And again, it has a cumulative effect and it retrains your brain, right? Like, so that alarm system I have, it's retraining my brain. And I actually noticed lately that um, I will kind of look 10 to 10 and I'll know, oh, it's coming. I have to breathe. So now my brain is retrained to know that at 10 and 2, I've got to breathe. So perhaps maybe one day I won't need the alarm, but for now, it's a great stepping stone for me to do that breathing. Do you define stress as an integral part of your work or home life? Things are always crazy around here, or, part of your personality. I have a lot of nervous energy. That's all, and people will say that, well, I have a lot of anxiety. I'm always really nervous. I've always been that way. And that might be true. But is it actually serving a purpose in your life if your stress is becoming unmanageable, or you're not, gaining control of your stress? Is that definition valid, and is it purposeful or working for you, right? Do you blame your stress on other people or outside events, or view it as entirely normal and unexceptional? So, so and so said this to me, so now I'm totally stressed out, or this person, we had a fallout, and now that's where my stress is coming from, and it really, yes, it's how we perceive it, right? Like that, a person may come into our lives and may be causing stress, but we still have control. You know, Perhaps that person is no longer beneficial for us in our lives, and how can we perhaps end that relationship, or maybe we have to put in very healthy, strong boundaries so that our stress level doesn't escalate every time we meet that person. Even if it's a family member, maybe someone's calling you, and yes, they're your family, but when you talk to them, they're causing stress, or they bring up a lot of stuff that you don't want to deal with. So perhaps you can say to them, you know what, I have to end the call right now. I've got to go to the bathroom, or I have to do something. But you put that boundary in to say, okay, that's enough, instead of listening to a conversation for 2, 3 hours, right? So you have the control, and it's tiny little things like that that will help to bring down your stress level. What is the narrative that you tell yourself and others, right? So if we, every time I meet someone, I say, oh my, what, how you doing, Anna? Oh, I just, I'm full of anxiety. I just, I'm not doing well. That's the narrative I'm telling myself and I'm telling other people. I really love that saying that says, what follows your I am is extremely powerful. So if I'm going to say, I am full of anxiety, I am sick, I have back pain, I am just not happy, that's what's going to follow me. I'm really manifesting that. In other words, but if we speak life into ourselves and say, I am healthy, I am, I have abundance, I am safe, I am stress free, I am financially stable, even if we're not. But to speak that into existence, it really does help our psyche, our mental and physical health. So try that. Perhaps you're saying something to people right now, and maybe change that narrative and see how that changes for you, right? Stop me if I'm going too fast. So the 4 A's of stress management. So stress. So number one, the first strategy is avoid unnecessary stress. Learn to say no. How many of us are just like, oh, okay, okay, I'll help you. Maybe we can help, but maybe it's a modified help. Maybe we can't give our all, but being mindful that it is okay to say no. Avoid people who stress you out. So again, it's hard sometimes to ignore, a family member, but you can put in healthy boundaries to say, okay, I can't talk for 2 hours. Um, I've heard enough. This conversation is becoming very cyclical, and it's not going anywhere. So I'm just going to bow out of this right now, politely, and have those healthy boundaries for yourself. Take control of your environment. Again, is your environment cluttered? I did this weekend. I actually went through all of my paperwork that I had jointly with my ex-husband, and I it was stressful, but so uplifting. Like I just felt so much lighter to actually be able to purge all of that. So maybe there's something in your environment that you need to tackle, and maybe it's hard, but doing things slowly and paced so that you are cleaning that area out of your life. And they even say your emails, perhaps your computer environment. Maybe you've got emails from like 3 years ago and you need to like clean all of that out, digital cleaning. Reduce your to-do list. Sometimes people have a list of like 25 things to do, and it's just not doable. Like we're human, and so we need to. be a little more mindful that we're not overdoing things and causing more stress to ourselves, unnecessary stress. So the second strategy is alter your situation. So express your feelings calmly instead of bottling them up. So is that if maybe you're a person who keeps things in and then all of a sudden lashes out. So how can you change that? How can you maybe instead, we practice the pause, right? So if somebody is, you're feeling upset with someone, maybe you just say, okay, I need a moment. I need to practice my pause. And it's funny, I have my 6-year-old son who's now saying to me, I need a moment. I need to calm down. So I'm like, that's great. That is perfect, so that we're not going to get into a fight. You're going to go and calm down, and mommy's going to go and calm down, and then we'll talk when we're a little calmer. Be willing to compromise. Obviously, that's a great skill to have. Be more assertive and manage your time better. So these are all within our control. The third strategy is adapt to the stressors. So see your problems differently. Look at the bigger picture, adjust your standards, and focus on the positive. So adapt to your stressors. So maybe right now finances are a bit tight. But you know what? You're starting to, you're adapting, you're making changes, you're maybe applying for different subsidies, or you're making a plan to make things better. So you're adapting to the stressor, but you're also identifying it and making a plan going forward, right? The fourth strategy is like accept the things you cannot change. Everybody knows that prayer, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I can change, and courage to change the things, that I can, and to know the difference, right? So um, that's a perfect, saying, don't try to control the uncontrollable. There's some things that are out of our control, and that's COVID-19, is out of our control, but at the same time, we are starting, obviously, our government and the doctors in charge, they are identifying how we can control the spread. And it is our responsibility to adhere to that and help our community out. um, Look for the upside in things. For me, the upside of having remote learning at home is I get to spend time with my son, because when things go back to normal, he'll be back in school full time and I won't see him as much. So I'm trying to, those moments that I feel very stressed out, I think to myself, you know what, I get to spend time with him and I may never have this chance again. So that's the upside to this, right? Share your feelings. Definitely share your feelings, and get a different perspective, get support in that way, and learn to forgive. Many of us, have probably held on to a lot of grudges, or a lot of our past is still lurking here in the present. We need to make peace with our past, and if you can't do it on your own, then there's community support again, to help you identify and start dealing with stuff, so you can purge it, right? And so those are the four strategies. Um, one thing about it, in terms of avoiding unnecessary stress, it's not healthy technically to avoid a stressful situation that needs to be addressed. Okay, so there is a difference. There's a lot of stress that you can eliminate in your life, but it's also not healthy to completely, put your blinders on and say, I can't deal with this. I can't address it. So that's not a good coping strategy. We really need to take a look, and again, if you need help, take a look at your life and start implementing changes. Um, Let me just check here. Yeah, to compromise. Okay. So coping strategies, a stress journal. I actually have a journal that I have every morning, and I write the things that you know I'm trying to change, and I identify it as areas that I need to change, but that I know I'm going to conquer. Okay, so For example, for my physical health, I have ankylosing spondylitis. So in my journal, I will write that my physical health is going to improve. So it's almost like positive, manifestations statements. Um, but it's something I do very quickly every day to just remind myself that that is a priority in my life. And I have stress with that, but I'm identifying it. So stress journal can help you identify the regular stressors in your life and the way you deal with them. So each time you feel stress, keep track of it in your journal, write it down. What caused you this stress? That's a great, definitely throughout the week, maybe you can start identifying, where did I start to feel stress? Like, what was it? Who was it? What did I hear? What did I feel that all of a sudden, caused some stress? How you acted in that response and what you did to make yourself feel better. So we know that, a past predictor of how we've dealt with certain, situations that were difficult will be a predictor of how we're going to behave in the future. You have to look back and say, you know what, I went through that, I got through that, and I know I can get through this again. Kind of self talk, letting yourself know that you've been through this, you've done hard things, you've been through whatever it may be, a stressful situation, you've come out of it. And so you have the tools within you to combat any stress that comes up in the future. So your past behavior um, will help to see how you'll predict how you'll behave, and maybe there's going to be changes to that. Maybe you say to yourself, well, in the same situation 2 years ago, I didn't really manage as well. What am I going to do now with facing the same situation? How am I going to change that? How am I going to make this experience better so that I come out of this better? And keeping a daily log will help you to see patterns and common themes. So maybe it's something that we need to change within ourselves that's causing this stressor. And it's a great way to keep a log of your patterns and your how you deal with things. And then that way, if you do choose to access somebody in the community, you can say, here, I've kept a log, and they can kind of help identify things for you as well. And it's a great way to start that healing process. So coping strategies. So one of them is obviously get moving. We know that exercise releases endorphins that make you feel really good. It's a distraction from your daily worries. Again, 30 minutes or more, and build yourself up gradually. And even small activities can, add to the course of the day. So maybe you can't go for a 20-minute walk, but perhaps you can do a 5-minute walk down the street, or just walking on the spot in your house. But it really is a huge stress reliever, and you don't have to be an athlete or spend hours in a gym, to experience those benefits. Put on some, I do this with my son. I put on some music and we dance around for 5 minutes. It's a quick exertion of energy, and it just kind of helps to purge any stress that I'm feeling. Um, Even if you're going to the, let's say if you are doing your groceries, then perhaps you want to park a bit farther. I used to do that with my mom. Actually, I used to park farther away so she would get her daily exercise, or her exercise once a week. And she's always say to me, why did you park so far? She was so upset at me. But I knew, that this was beneficial for her and for her mobility, to keep her mobile. um so little things like, maybe instead of taking an elevator, you go up one flight of stairs and then take the elevator the rest of the way. Let's say, so you want to modify things. um yeah. And so the second one here is connecting with others through COVID. And I specifically picked COVID because things have changed drastically. And to be honest, things are going to be different probably for the rest of 2021 if we're really realistic about it. Um, it is our reality, right? So we want to connect with others. This is super important. Picking up the telephone and calling someone. That's so old school, and that is just absolutely the best thing we can do is pick up and call someone. If you have technology like most of you do, use your technology to connect. Being a part of this wellness series, you're connecting with other people, you're engaging yourself with other people, and you're strengthening your intellect. Exercise with a friend or family member at a safe distance. So I have seen a lot of people going for walks and they're, socially distanced. Hang out in your front yard and interact with your neighbors. I mean, yesterday I went shoveling and I saw my neighbor, and that was our time to say, hey, how are you doing? You coping well? Yeah, I am, or I'm not. So it's a good way to do that. Spend more time in the park, if you're able to. I mean, right now I'm really thankful, like the parks are still open. I take my son, after school, to the park, and that's important for his mental health. So I'm really thankful that they haven't closed that down, because they just know more about how this is spread now. And that's the great part of this year, is that they've really started to understand this illness and how it impacts us, so the kids can still go out and play in the park. Volunteer with a community support group or outreach call. Again, I talked about that before. I mean, you don't have to be with an organization. You can do something for yourself. I know, I have a friend. He's not part of an organization, but he goes out and gives meals to the homeless people in Hamilton. Like, so it's just something that he does on his own that gives him connection and gives him purpose. So it kind of helps to reduce his stress, and he's helping someone else at the same time. Um, Participating in group activities held at a distance. Obviously, right now we're in lockdown, so that's more difficult. And check on your neighbors who live alone to ensure they're okay. Maybe you live alone, so it's probably a good idea to just check on other people, right? That may be in your building, if they're comfortable, of course, right? Um, it's kind of sad. We have part of our wellness programs. We have an art program for seniors who are living in Halton region housing. And we had to put a stop to that temporarily, because it requires multiple deliveries to their homes with these art kits. So that's been, a little bit of a setback, unfortunately, which really brought them connection. They were able, we did art online. And so that helped people who were feeling very, very isolated. So now that's been taken away because of the lockdown. So um, it's important to check on people, if you're able to. It really is. Um, I mean, social connections is a natural stress reliever. It really is a thread that binds our communities together. And we need to find meaningful ways to connect with others during this time and support each other in our own health and well being. COVID has really identified how much we need human interaction and how important it is for us to um, reach out to others, because there's just an alarming number of people who um, are really experiencing isolation and loneliness. So um, if we can support each other, it'd be great, right? The next coping strategy is make time for fun and relaxation. So carve out me time. There's got to be a time, during the day where you can say, from 1 to 1:30, that's going to be my time. I'm not going to watch TV. I'm just going to sit quietly, or I'm going to read, or you have to carve it out. We live in a society right now, and obviously lockdown has made things a little bit less busy for a lot of people, but um, you still need to make that time. Just the same way that I do 10 and 2 o'clock is my breathing time. That's my, 5 minutes where I carve it out for myself, and I go to the bathroom and I'll breathe, or wherever I am. I'll make sure that time is just for me. Um, yeah, and I mean, it's making sure that we're not getting caught up in the busyness of life, that we're not um, nurturing yourself, right? Self-care is not selfish. We truly need to rejuvenate. We need to reboot ourselves. We need to and we'll talk about self-compassion next week. We need to practice self-care. And because we are such a busy society, it really has to be something we schedule in. and eventually it becomes second nature. So it's really, think of something that you really love to do or something that would be relaxing, and put it in your calendar. This is this time, or put the alarm on this time. I'm going to be nurturing myself. I'm going to be practicing self-care and self-compassion. um, so you really need to include rest and relaxation in your daily schedule, and that is a real key point to stress management, definitely. um, do something you enjoy every day. We talked about that. It could be laughing. Like I said, I watch a funny show before bed every night, even if it's for 5 minutes. I'll watch Three's Company or something just to end the day on a positive note. And laughing really does help to reduce stress in several ways. Okay, so it's really it's something that we have. And I don't feel like laughing all the time, to be honest, but when I do actually actively put it on that show, I can't help but laugh. So it really is kind of like a forced thing, but I benefit afterwards. Um, yeah. And so over time, the goal really is that your stress levels will decrease and your mind and body will become more calm and centered. And that's really the goals of all of this stress management, right? Is that you're able to access a very centered part of yourself that maybe has not been taken care of for a really long time, and you need to make it a priority. Self care is definitely a priority. And I was a dementia caregiver for 3 years, and we talked about self care all the time, and I took care of my mom for several years, and really carving out that time is absolutely essential to thrive. It really is, to not only survive, but to thrive. And that's what we want to be doing. We want to be thriving. We don't want to be surviving. And that's a stepping stone, but we want to get to a point where we are thriving in life, where we've done the work to ensure that we're balanced. And that we're enjoying life. Life is really, it's short, right? We know this. Life is short. And it's human. We get bogged down with so many things, so many responsibilities, so many stressors, but it is within our control. We can manage this. The next one is manage your time better. So poor time management, believe it or not, can cause a lot of stress. If I definitely am not managing my son's time and myself, things can fall to the wayside, and then that just immediately starts to bring up my stress level. So it is so hard to to stay focused and calm when you've got so much stuff going on. So you have to pare it down. Maybe that's something you need to do, is pare down what's happening in your life. And again, the goal is to achieve a healthier work-life balance. Don't overcommit yourself to things. The people do this a lot. Avoid scheduling back to back, or fitting so much into one day. And that, I think that was really happening before COVID, right? Now we're in lockdown. It's kind of forced. We have to almost stay in the moment. Um, but pre-COVID, and we know this. I mean, we know when things are semi back to normal, people are going to go back to their lives, and they're going to, it's going to start all over again. So we really need to take this time to understand um, that you need to prioritize yourself. You need to make a list of high priority items, because not everything needs to be on your list. Um, Delegate. I love this. Delegate responsibility if you're able to, right? If you're able to delegate some things to family members, or again to a community worker, or anything else. If you're able to delegate some things to reduce your stress level. Balance with a healthy lifestyle. So we talked about this before, regular exercises and also healthy choices that increase your resistance to stress. So if you're a especially if you're a stressful eater, and I am, when I'm stressed out, I like to eat. I need to be careful of what I'm choosing to eat, because that could make or break me. So I try and say, okay, you know what? Maybe that chocolate bar, not a good idea to have right now when I'm stressed. I'm going to focus on having, a boiled egg maybe. It's not the same, but it's making a better choice, and that's helping me to increase my resistance to stress rather than adding on to it. Because then there's secondary issues of gaining weight and then, your blood sugar. So we want to make healthy choices, and kind of reduce those temporary highs. So chocolate is going to give me a real temporary high, and then I'm going to crash down. Whereas if I choose that boiled egg or a salad or something else to snack on, cheese and crackers, like that will make me feel more relaxed over time, over the day. Um, Careful with escapism. Like, are you using things to escape temporarily? Alcohol is one of those things. Netflix. If you've got Netflix, people binge watch, and that's a form of escapism, right? Are you actually dealing with stuff? Is that something you just do as a treat, or is it something you're always doing, right? Um, Someone just came in. So, don't avoid or mask the issue at hand. You have to deal with problems head on with a clear mind. So be mindful of those activities that we do that truly, it's just, it's not healthy, right? To be escaping. We have to deal with our problems eventually. Get enough sleep. This obviously fuels your mind. Feeling tired will increase your stress because it causes you to think irrationally. Absolutely. If you have had a sleepless night, you know that it's very difficult to function the next day and think clearly. Okay. So then we've got learn to relieve stress in the moment. I love Cookie Monster. Today, me will live in the moment unless it's unpleasant, in which case me will eat a cookie or a boiled egg. Okay. So maybe we're not going to follow, right? Maybe we're not going to follow Cookie Monster exactly, but I just love that, he's saying if it's unpleasant, I'm going to eat something that makes me feel better. But manage your stress levels right now. We tend, it's very easy for us to sweep things under the carpet. Oh my gosh, this is so overwhelming. I'm going to sweep it under the carpet. But what happens when that happens? Then we don't develop dust, bunnies. It's more like dust elephants underneath there, right? And it's hard to unpack that after and clean that up. So staying in the moment, that's where quick release comes in. Um, you have a stress response, you identify it, and you make kind of like a quick plan as how am I going to deal with this, right? And maybe you need help with that. Maybe it's within yourself. It's difficult to make that quick plan. Maybe again you need someone to talk to, and that's okay. It's all about progress, not perfection. We are not perfect beings. We all make mistakes. Um, Sometimes we manage our stress really well, and then sometimes we really don't, and that's okay. We that's just being human, right? So we need to be really gentle with ourselves, and we'll talk about self-compassion next week, but it's really about trying to do the best we can for ourselves without all the judgment coming with it. So right now I just want you, this is a simple grounding exercise. So if you start to feel anxiety, or you start to, you've been introduced to a stress, something has caused a stress response in you, and you're a little bit, oh my goodness, I can't process this right now. This is too much. You can come to this grounding exercise. So right now, I just want you to just take 3 deep cleansing breaths, if you can, or normal breaths is fine. And this is grounding, so it's going to help you come back to the moment when things are getting a bit flighty in your head. So you're going to look around and you're going to name, I want you to see 5 things that you can see. So if you can do that right now and just quietly to yourself name them. And now I want you to think of 4 things that you can feel, or look in your environment and see if there's 4 things that you can identify that you can feel. And also, when you're doing that, it's an opportunity for you to practice your breathing as well. And then I want you to find three things that you can hear in your environment. You're going to take a deep breath in, and you're going to look for two things that you can smell. And now take a deep breath in and identify one thing that you can taste. Maybe you still have the taste of coffee in your mouth. Think of one thing that you can taste. So you might be thinking to yourself, wow, that was really quick and easy, and I feel much calmer in this moment. And I do, I feel much calmer. Um, so that is something, it's kind of like having a coping strategy toolbox. And if you have all your coping strategies that you think work for you, you keep it in there. And this is definitely a good one. Is, you have to pull it out when you're starting to feel that anxiety or overwhelm. This will really definitely bring you back to the center and ground you enough so you can look at that stressor with more clarity and more ability to tackle it. Okay. Another exercise you can do, which could also be part of um, your toolbox of coping strategies, is box breathing techniques. Super easy. So that's, again, it helps to lower your heart rate back to normal. So if you feel more relaxed, so just if you're already sitting, of course, you're going to sit and close your eyes and focus on your breathing. And you're going to inhale, preferably through your nose, for 4 seconds. And remember, you're creating a box. So you're inhaling and creating one side of the box. Hold your breath for 4 seconds. You're not trying to deprive yourself of air. You're just giving the air a few seconds to fill your lungs. And then you're going to go across and exhale slowly through your mouth for 4 seconds. And then you're going to pause again for 4 seconds before breathing again, just holding it. And then inhale, and your square comes down on the other side. And then you're going to hold for 4 seconds. And then you're going to exhale, and that's the bottom of your square. So that's box breathing. Okay. So that's something you can also put into your toolbox if you're starting to feel anxiety. So these are really, proven great coping strategies. Um, so now that we're relaxed, here's a little chart. So we have our stressors. So they can either be internal. So that could be your own anxiety or fear, or something has happened. You're worried about something, and then we have external stressors or demands. So it might be your job, or finances, or something is coming in. So then you're going to go through the appraisal process. That's you're identified it, and now you're kind of thinking, maybe you've had to do your box breathing here, or you've had to do your grounding before you even get to appraisals, right? So you're looking at coping resources, your personal attributes, your stable environment attributes. Do you have the coping resources within? Again, and that's your toolbox. So you're pulling out your grounding exercise or your box breathing. That's a personal um, attribute. Stable environment, is your environment at that moment stable, or do you need to maybe go into another room, or do you need to change your environment in order to cope with this? Um, and then secondary, emotion or problem focused coping. So we're identifying the problem, we're coming up with solutions to deal with it in that moment. Maybe it's something that, again, is long term. So that might take more time, but you know, you're looking at ways to bring down those emotions. That could be through the breathing, and you're making a plan. So short-term outcomes, obviously, is your relaxation and your improved mood for the moment. And long-term outcomes of doing this is your physical, mental, and life satisfaction. So this is a great tool to understand, again, that if we, you know, take our stressors head on, that we'll be able to practice this. If we push this under the carpet, then we're going to move into the realm of chronic stress and anxiety. And then it's harder to identify, more complicated to identify um, when you have to deal with it, when you're having secondary issues in health and mental health. It becomes more difficult to pinpoint. So this is just, a little thing for yourself. Like, stress happens to me. I'm going to take my deep breath. I'm going to praise it, pull out my coping tools that I have, and, change my environment if I have to. And that will produce those short-term outcomes. And then if I do this consistently, then long-term is that I will have improved physical and mental health and overall life satisfaction. Okay. So these are types of coping skills that are really concrete. Okay, so there's self-soothing, distraction, opposite action, emotional awareness, mindfulness, and a crisis plan. So self-soothing, comforting yourself through your five senses, and so that's what we just did. Actually, we just did the grounding exercise, and that's amazing. Okay, the distraction, taking your mind off the problem for a while, and that's okay. So sometimes, our automatic coping strategies that we need to take a step back from this because it's a little too powerful. It's a little too much for us to deal with. So you can maybe, work on a puzzle, a book. This isn't the same as putting it under the carpet. Okay. So we're not putting it under the carpet. We're just taking a break, to process what's happened. We're appraising things, but while we're appraising things, we are doing things like knitting, crocheting, or listening to a song. That usually helps me is to take a break from it, is to listen to music, or um, maybe I might listen to a podcast, something, but just to distract yourself. And then you can do the opposite action. So doing something the opposite of your impulse that's consistent with a positive emotion. So maybe in that moment you are not feeling very good. You are, overwhelmed. You feel anxiety. You're questioning your ability to cope with everything. So looking at affirmations and inspiration is most definitely um, a great way to come back to yourself. And I have, a set of 20 positive statements that I try and say every day, but I usually keep it for when, something, I don't feel well. Like this is not good. Like I'm not processing this properly, or, you know, um, I need something else to cancel this, right? So I'll go to my positive statements, and I'll read those, and I'll be like, oh, okay, great. That's right. I can do this. Like this is good. Again, something funny, you want to, something you've heard, something terrible, it's causing you a lot of stress. You know what, I'm going to offset this by watching, just a, quick 20-minute show to lift me out of this for a minute. um, Again, these are all in your toolbox. Okay, so this is all the things you can pull out. Emotional awareness, tools for identifying and expressing your feelings. So you can journal, you can draw. Some people draw. You can make a list of the emotions that you're feeling. So you're identifying the things that you're thinking in your head. Okay. Mindfulness, tools for centering and grounding yourself. So can you do that 1 minute meditation? Maybe that's all you can muster up, is I can only do 1 minute outside. Um, can you, hold a rock? Definitely. Sometimes I say to my son, well, why don't you hold this rock? Um, and just kind of take a few deep breaths, because it really, that weight, if you have a weight blanket as well, a weighted blanket, maybe you take a few minutes to kind of go underneath your weighted blanket and just breathe there and feel safe. um, again, and breathing exercises. So you're in the moment. You're understanding that something has happened. There's been a trigger. There's a stressor that's happened, and you need that time to process it, right? And then a crisis plan. Okay, so if it's something very serious, you really want to get community resources involved. So your family, your friends, therapist, a hotline, those things are available to you. If it's something, and I question that unfortunately that friend who committed suicide, what were his coping skills, right? Or did he access support? So this is where we're kind of worried in a situation like COVID-19. Are people reaching out? Are people do they know about all these things before they get to that point? So it's really important to engage your um, healthcare team if you're doing all these things and it's still not working, right? And there might be other streams of service that you might have to access, like therapy or medication, or every little bit helps, right? So again, the power of our words. This is really important. Say, for example, you grew up in a home that were things were said to you that were not very nice. You're this, you're that. And so it can be really difficult to shift from that narrative that you've heard to these I am statements. But it really, what follows I am truly does manifest. And it can, maybe it's just saying one I am statement a day. Maybe you can't think of too many of them, or you just can't process that many. Just, I am peaceful, I am beautiful, I am loving, I am a good friend. All these, the power of our words is immeasurable. Like, it's just something that I've seen a lot of people who have changed their narrative, what they say to themselves, even though they've lived through, situations where they did not hear good things. And it's amazing how your body and mind and spirit start responding when you change your narrative. And it might be uncomfortable at first, but over time, you'll start to feel that cumulative effect of being positive. You can say it every day, or you can say it. Um, it could be a mantra. I am peaceful. I am loved. I am a good person. Whatever it is, that, again, it's your own personal plan, right? So you've got this. You can do it. Encouragement. Okay. So I actually have a self care plan worksheet that I will email to you. So if you want to write down a few things, um, I'll have to look for that. Yeah. If you want to write down a few things to kind of get yourself started on a plan, again, like, having my alarm set from 10 o'clock and then 2 o'clock, that was part of my self care plan worksheet. I thought this is something that I can do every day. And say, for example, I'm not feeling well, I'll go to my affirmations. So it's something that you can post it on your fridge if you want, as it's a go-to plan as when you need it. And it's very personal, so depending on what you've been through or what you're going through right now, you're going to adapt that to yourself and your own situation, right? So what we offer at Acclaim is, so we have one-to-one consultations. So you're more than welcome, if you need to troubleshoot a self-care plan or coping strategy, you can always reach out to me and I can do that one-to-one with you. We've got the weekly meditation. Some of you are in that already. Tuesday at 1, and then Thursdays at 9. And then we have monthly sound bath meditations, where we have two volunteers who, over Zoom, they have a meditation, and then they play these kind of these bowls, crystal bowls, that are really soothing. So that's available as well. And then complementary therapy with referrals. So if you feel, if I might we might identify in our one-to-one session that you might be a benefit from music therapy or Reiki, something like that. That complementary therapy with referral would need to come from your doctor, or your social worker, or any mental health professional, anyone in the community, basically. Um, yeah, so the end. That was a long one today.